Hey, quickly before we get down to business, had a great story this week. A couple of us were at the Lakeside Fitness, I think it was Friday. A woman from the community walked by the group of us that were from the vineyard and said, "Hey, I just want to let you guys know something. I was going through the McDonald's drive-thru, got an iced tea, got up to the window at the McDonald's drive-thru and to pay for my meal, and found out that the person in front of me had paid for my meal, and they gave me a vineyard card saying, you just want to let you know that Jesus loves you." And so it touched that individual's life. It was actually a woman whose husband just dropped dead of a heart attack, maybe a year ago, something like that. And so it really touched her life. So if that was you, good on you. Well done. Yeah. All right, so this morning we continue in our Loving on Purpose message series. And in this series, we've been looking at what the Bible has to say about how to keep moving towards other individuals in intentional Christ-like love, and how to keep doing that, especially when it's difficult to be moving towards others in love. And over the last several weeks, we've been kind of slowly but steadily connecting the dots between two ideas. We've been connecting the dots between loving others on purpose and the importance of communicating the truth that's inside of us. Loving others on purpose, in other words, is necessarily connected to communicating the truth that's inside of us. And these are the dots we've been connecting over the last several weeks. First of all, the importance of communicating the truth inside of us is, first of all, meaning we need to get real with God. That's the first dot we've connected. To love on purpose, to love others on purpose, I need to get real with God. So let's read that together. To love on purpose, I need to get real with God. Why? Because the only way that we can give away unconditional love to others is if we have a source of unconditional love in God. And the only way that we can have a source of unconditional love in God is if we come to know on the inside and experience on the inside His unconditional love by getting real with Him about what's really going on the inside, right? All right, so that's the first dot we've needed to connect. And with that then, we've seen that in order to get real with God, we often have to take this step of getting real with ourselves, right? We have to get honest with ourselves about the messes that's going on the inside. Then we can get honest with God about the messes that are inside, and then we experience love for the messes that are inside. So a necessary part of that, then, to love others on purpose, I need to get real with myself. Let's read that together, just the second line there in the middle. To love on purpose, I need to get real with myself. In order for me to love others on purpose, I need to get honest with God. And in order for me to get honest with God, I need to get honest with myself about what's really going on the inside. And then finally, last week, we saw that in order to love others on purpose, we have to get real with others. And so let's read that third line, the top lines and the third line. To love on purpose, I need to get real with others. We have to be truthful with others about what's really going on the inside of us in order for that relationship to be truly, truly loving. We saw this last week, that the kind of life that we are called to live as Christ followers is characterized by this uncompromising commitment to live our lives, to walk in the inseparable union of love and truth. We saw last week that 1 John 3:18 stated this truth in this way. Dear children, let us not love with words, not just words, not merely words, not just our talk, but with actions and in truth. In other words, true Christian love. When we're living life, when we're doing life the way Jesus did life, it must necessarily be, truthful and loving. True Christian love is necessarily truthful love. And when we detach love from the truth, that it's merely the pretense of love. Love detached from truth is merely the pretense of love. Love and truth must be inseparable qualities in the life of the Christ follower. But most of us know from experience that it's easier to shortchange one or the other. It's easier to be loving but not completely truthful, right? Or it's easier to be completely truthful but not very loving. That's really easy to do. It's very easy to do, and it's tempting even at times to be neither truthful nor loving. But we saw last week that none of these common short-changed relational strategies that we find ourselves operating in are truly loving. It's got to be both. The truly Christ-like life of loving others on purpose is the life of love and truth, inseparably, combined. And therefore, in order to love others on purpose, we need to learn how to honestly and lovingly communicate the truth on the inside. All right, so that's all by way of review. And so this morning what we're going to do is we're going to connect just one more dot between loving others on purpose and communicating the truth on the inside. So we're going to spend one more week on communicating the truth on the inside. And maybe just as a footnote, I should say here that I think I have been saying for the last several weeks that next week I'm going to preach on how to build trust. And I haven't done that yet. Every week I have said how to build trust, and I'm not preaching on it again today. That is not how you build trust, by the way. When you don't do what you say you're going to do, that does not build trust. So really I did that on purpose to give you an illustration of what not to do. I did it on purpose. Okay. And next week I'm not even going to preach on how to build trust. So I'm trying to push it off on Sheldon on Father's Day. So we'll see. You can trust Sheldon. All right, so we're going to connect one more dot between loving others on purpose and communicating the truth on the inside of us. When we're endeavoring then to lovingly and truthfully live lives of communicating the truth inside of us, it's helpful and important that we learn how to communicate the truth inside of us using I messages. Using I messages. The basic structure of an I message sounds something like this. I feel, and then insert some of emotion there, some sort of emotion. I feel when I experience this event. That's an I message. I think, insert some sort of thought there, when I experience a description of an event. And I desire, I want, I would like, insert some sort of need because I want to feel some sort of an emotion, all right? These are I messages. And so let's fill in this template with some, with an example. So I feel anger, when I experience event, when I experience that my concerns are being dismissed, all right? I feel angry when I experience that my needs are being, or my concerns are being dismissed. Make sense? Just plugging in emotion, plugging in the description of an event. All right. Next one. So I think what's happening in my brain is I think that I'm not respected when my concerns are being dismissed. That's what I think. That's a thought. I think that I'm not being respected when my needs are being, or my concerns are being dismissed. And so lastly, and then I desire to be heard. I desire to be heard so that because I want to feel respected. Make sense? You can write these down. These will be very helpful to you. These are examples of I messages. And I messages are important ways to communicate the truth that's inside of us so that we can move towards better connection in loving relationships with others. Why? Because I messages help us to bring into focus our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own desires, our own behaviors, our own experiences. And it helps us to bring them into focus in the first person, meaning I. I feel, I think, I desire. All right, makes sense? Pretty simple stuff. Hang with me here. We're going to hit some pay dirt shortly. So here's the big idea behind I messages. In loving relationships, my job is to tell you about me, and your job, the person on the other side of this relationship, is to tell me about you. Make sense? So let's read this big idea, this key idea together. In loving relationships, my job is to tell you about me. Your job is to tell me about you. All right, now this is what we're going to see in just a moment. This key idea reveals to us why I messages are important in relationships, why they're helpful in relationships, because most of us live and navigate our relationships doing the exact opposite of this. Let me say that again. Most of us live our lives and navigate our relationships doing the exact opposite of this. Most of us live our lives and navigate relationships out of this false idea. My job is to tell you about you, right? And your job is to tell me about me. That's completely opposite of healthy biblical relationships. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's hit the pause button on that. We see the principle of I messages in the Bible really in the opening pages of human history. In Genesis 3, after Adam and Eve had broken down their relationship with God and busted up their relationship with one another through disobedience to God, we see God in the garden, loving them on purpose. God moving towards intentional reconnection with them, moving towards helping them to intentionally reconnect with one another. So after they disobeyed God, relationships were broken down, and God is lovingly pursuing them, though they, on their part, are what? They're hiding. They're hiding from God. They're hiding from one another. So let's just read the account, picking up in verse 6 of Genesis chapter 3. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took from its fruit and ate, and she gave also to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loin coverings. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. One more slide. Then the Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where are you? Where are you?" So we see here that as God pursued this goal of loving and truthful reconnection, as he pursued this goal of lovingly and truthfully reconnecting the relationships in the human race that had become fractured, and the relationships between the human race and himself that had become fractured, there was one question on God's lips as he pursued the goal of reconnection. Where are you? Where are you? Now, it's important to keep in mind that it's not that God had no idea where Adam and Eve were hiding, right? Hey, I can't find you guys. Where are you? Right? God knows everything. It wasn't like, wow, is that you guys? Because seriously, with those fig leaves on, I totally bought that you were fig trees. You're messing with my omniscient mind here. Really, I created fig trees. I thought you guys were fig trees. That's not why God was asking the question, where are you? It was not an attempt to acquire information he did not possess. Rather, God was inviting the man and the woman to get honest with themselves about where they were. Where are you? Where are you? God was not looking to discover the whereabouts of their bodies for himself. He was looking to help them discover the whereabouts of their own hearts for themselves. Where are you? Let's get honest about this. Where are you? God was inviting the man and the woman to communicate the truth inside of themselves. God was giving them, the human race, this key idea for fixing broken relationships. Your job is to tell me about you. Where are you? See that? Your job is to tell me about you. And so God is providing you and me in this episode, a roadmap for relational reconnection. When relationships break down, this is a roadmap for relational reconnection through this pathway of using I messages. I think these thoughts. I feel these feelings. I desire. I want these needs. All right? Now, for those of you who you've got your thinking caps on and you're wondering if I'm getting too much mileage out of 3 words. Where are you? Wow, that's a lot in 3 words. All right. Listen to what Adam says in response to God's little 3-word question in Genesis 3:10. Adam answered, I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and so I hid. All right, Adam got it. Adam completely understood the information that God was after, and he responded to God's invitation into relational reconnection by getting real with himself and by getting real with God and by getting real about where he was. See, Adam described his own experiences in I terms. I heard something. This is what I experienced. Right? Adam then described his own emotions in I terms. I heard something that was an event, and I was afraid. That's what was really going on the inside of me. And then Adam described his own thoughts. He described this rational concluding process that he went through in I terms. I was afraid because. A rational process. Because I was naked. That's what he was thinking. And then Adam described the choices that he consequently made in I terms. So I hid. You see that? Adam, where are you? God, let me tell you where I am. Let me communicate the truth inside of me. And so we see here from this very first historical breakdown in human relationships that God gives this prescription for relational reconnection through communication and through the communication of the truth that's inside of us. Where are you? Because your job is to tell me what's going on with you. And so, again, just the basic God-given pattern for communicating the truth inside of us for the purpose of loving others on purpose, for the purpose of building relational connection is through I messages, and it's this pattern. I feel this emotion when I experience this event. I think these thoughts when I experience these events. I desire, I want, I need these desires and wants and needs because I want to feel these particular emotions. All right? So you got the pattern. All right, now why is this important? I'm going to just keep kind of driving deeper down into this. Why is it important? Why do we need to be clear that it's our job to talk about what's going on with us? Well, as I said just a moment ago, because it's in our nature to do the exact opposite. It is in our nature to do the exact opposite of what God calls us to do in order to pursue relational reconnection. And so instead of answering the question, where are you, with an I message, we are more naturally inclined to answer that question in a way that sounds something like this. Where am I? I am not going to answer that question. I am not going to tell you where I am. Instead, let me tell you where you are. Let me tell you what's going on with you. Instead of getting honest about what's going on inside of us, it's in our nature to hide what's going on inside of us and to point a finger at what is going on inside of the other person on the other side of the relational breakdown. All right, you understand that? We do the exact opposite, and I'm going to prove it to you, because it's my job to tell you about you. By the way, just so you're clear. All the rest that I'm saying applies to you, but not me. Our nature to hide what's going on with ourselves so that we can point out what's going on with somebody else is exactly what Adam and Eve began to do the second that God began pressing in a little bit more into their inner reality. In other words, as God probed a little bit more into the question, all right, tell me more about that. Tell me more about where you are. What's going on with you? Adam quickly shifted from I messages. He did well in verse 10, but in verse 12, he shifted into you messages. All right? Verse 12, the man said, the woman, you put here with me. She gave me some fruit from the tree. And it's easy for me to hear him saying, and I ate it. All right? Right? Did you see the shift in the pronouns? Not so many I's in there anymore. So very quickly, the man shifted from honest I-message disclosure about what was really going on the inside of him to you-message attacks and accusations and blame. The woman, her, that you, God, you ultimately, remember, you, the woman, you, she did something. And this quick transition from I-message disclosures, honest I-message disclosure to you-message attack, you-message accusation, you-message blame is exactly what we do. It is exactly what we do because that is exactly what is in our nature. Right? So let's pull this all together. God's invitation to loving, truthful relational reconnection models for us the key idea that it's my job to communicate to you what's going on inside of me, and it's your job, and I leave my hands off this, but it's your job to communicate to me what's going on inside of you. But it's our nature to turn God's model for relational reconnection completely backwards into something that sounds like what we talked about a moment ago. My job is to tell you, not about me, but my job is to tell you about you. My job is to tell you what you are experiencing. You are liking this. Right? Or my job is to tell you what you're not experiencing. You're afraid? No, you're not. Right? No, you're not. We get it completely backwards. We think, my job is to tell you what you're thinking. Let me tell you what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Wow. I'm like God. My job, we get it completely backwards. My job is to tell you what you're feeling. Or my job is to tell you what you shouldn't be feeling. Well, you shouldn't be feeling that way. You ever heard that one? Yeah. Yes, you have. You've done that too. Because my job is to tell you about you. Right? We do that. Because we have God's pathway completely backwards. My job is to tell you what you're experiencing. My job is to tell you what you're thinking. My job is to tell you what you're feeling. My job is to tell you what you shouldn't be feeling. My job is to tell you what you're doing. And my job is to tell you why you are doing it. It is my job to judge the motives of your heart because I know why you do what you do. It's my job to tell your feelings, my job to tell your thoughts, the motives of your heart. It's my job to tell you about you. And your job is just simply to know what's going on inside of me. Because I'm not telling you, honestly, but you need to know. Right? And your job is to meet my needs without me expressing them. Does that sound a little bit familiar? It's very awkwardly silent right now. It's in our nature to navigate God's pathway to relational reconnection in the exact opposite direction that God has prescribed. And listen, when we navigate in the exact opposite direction that God prescribed for relational reconnection, newsflash, it doesn't work. All right? When we don't do life God's way, it does not work very well. When we're relating out of you messages rather than I messages, we're not loving others on purpose. We're actually just being very arrogant. I know what's going on with you. I know why you're doing it. That is just arrogant. That is just arrogant. Can I say that one more time? When we think that we know the motives of another person's heart, that is just arrogant. We're not loving that person. We are being presumptuous. We are being disrespectful, and we are being judgmental. And when we try to navigate relational breakdowns using then these you messages, these attacking, accusatory, blaming, arrogant, presumptuous, disrespectful, judgmental you messages instead of I messages, this is where I am, the result is we create more distance in the relationship, right? We create more distance, not relational connection. I mean, let's face it, how often have you invited another person just into intimate reconnection, and you've just opened up your heart with them? You've said, oh, can I just get honest with you just about what's really going on the inside? And they're like, yeah, please, that's what I've always wanted. Well, I just really feel deep down in my rawest emotions, I feel that you're a selfish pig. That's just how I feel. I'm just telling you how I feel. All right? How many times when you've done something like that, and you've done something like that, how many times has the person on the other side of the relational breakdown said in response, thank you. Thank you for opening up your heart and sharing with me. I have been wondering what's wrong with me. Can we hug? Right? That never happens. That never happens. Right? It's in our nature to navigate relational breakdown and to tempt connection and reconnection using you messages, but it doesn't work, right? Because the person's like, ugh. They want to back away when you've been on the receiving end of a you message, attack, accusation, blame, right? Hey, let me go on a footnote here. This is an absolute freebie. I think I've got a minute or two. The example that I used is probably the most common way most of us are going to mess up an I message. I feel. We are going to abuse the statement, I feel, in the exact same way the example, all right? We're going to use an I feel, I message to actually couch an accusation that is not a feeling. So the example, I just really feel, this emotion I feel in my heart is that you're a pig. You're a selfish pig. That's how I feel, right? All right, so why is that not a feeling? It's not a feeling, right? I feel that you're a pig is not a feeling. A feeling sounds something like I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm anxious, I'm happy, I'm surprised, right? There's a bunch of emotions I know. I've heard there are. I've only got one personally, but I've heard other people have more emotions. I had to Google it. There are more emotions. I looked them up. They are real. All right. I feel that you're a pig is not a feeling. I feel hurt. That's a feeling. And that's where it's going to break down. We are going to couch accusations. We are going to couch attacks as a feeling. And that's just not living life God's way. It's not getting honest about about what's really going on inside of us. It's judgmental. And moreover, even just in expressing, it's a thought. This is what I think, honestly. I think you're a pig. But that's even couched in a way that I'm just attacking the person at the core of their being. You are. Your fundamental nature. You are quintessentially pig. You are pig. Right? That's not helpful. That's not a helpful thought. It might be more helpful to couch a thought. It's not, I feel you're a pig. It's just, I feel hurt. I feel hurt as a result of this thought. I feel hurt when it seems that you are not taking into consideration other people's feelings or other people's needs. Right? See the difference between those? I'm describing an event with my honest feelings. I feel hurt. I feel angry when it seems that you're not taking into consideration. So that way I'm describing a choice that's being made, not their nature. You understand that? All right. That was all for free. So where are we? It's in our nature to navigate breakdown, to attempt reconnection using a strategy that is the exact opposite of what God calls for us. We will default by nature to you message, attack, and accusation, and blame, and judgmentalism, just arrogant presumption, and it doesn't work. Life works when we do it God's way, and God's pathway to relational reconnection calls for us to communicate the truth inside of us because the pathway God gave us is my job is to tell you about me. And your job is to tell me about you. Did I say that right? I think I messed it up. Did I say it right? My job is to tell you about me. Your job is to tell me about you. My job is to tell you about me. This is what I am feeling. Insert actual human emotion, not accusation. I feel hurt. Not I feel you're a pig. Not a feeling. Right? I think these thoughts as a result of this event. I make these choices. I have these experiences, and I desire these desires. All right? My job is to tell you about me. Your job is to tell me about you. And that works because that's doing life God's way. So let's just review this key idea. In loving relationships, let's read that. In loving relationships, my job is to tell you about me, and your job is to tell me about you. All right, we're going to wrap up there, and we're going to keep pressing forward.